Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, said Friday that she believes President Trump should resign immediately, becoming the first Senate Republican to call for him to step down after riots at the Capitol. I want him to resign. I want him out. He has caused enough damage, Murkowski told the Anchorage Daily News. Murkowski's comments come 2 days after rioters breached the Capitol as Vice President Pence and lawmakers were counting the Electoral College votes. Trump, who has since said he will support an orderly transfer of power, has issued unsupported claims for weeks that the election was rigged and encouraged his supporters to gather at the Capitol on Wednesday ahead of the violence. Murkowski also appeared to acknowledge that Trump is unlikely to resign, even as House Democrats appear poised to impeach him for a second time, and there are growing calls for Pence and the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. I think he should leave. He said he's not going to show up. He's not going to appear at the inauguration. He hasn't been focused on what is going on with COVID. He's either been golfing or he's been inside the Oval Office fuming and throwing every single person who has been loyal and faithful to him under the bus, starting with the vice president, Murkowski said. He doesn't want to stay there. He only wants to stay there for the title. He only wants to stay there for his ego. He needs to get out. He needs to do the good thing. But I don't think he's capable of doing a good thing, she added. So the reason this is a very big deal is that I can't think of any other instance where a Republican senator called on a sitting president of their party to resign. And you're going to have these Democrats on Twitter, because that's the cesspool ridiculous website, who are going to say, you're a Johnny come lately, you should have supported impeaching him. First of all, the reason you couldn't get any Republicans to support impeaching Trump last year, or rather the year before last, was because politicians care about their future and try to do as much as they can to ensure their future. So the reason Romney was the only one who didn't vote with all the Republicans to acquit Trump on both charges is because he's likely to not run for his Senate seat a second time. And he's already ran for president multiple times. So he pretty much has nothing to lose with this seeming one term that he's going to have in the Senate. Murkowski, on the other hand, is a person who literally lost the Republican primary for her last Senate term in 2016 and was able to still become their nominee, or rather become reelected to another term by write-in vote. So she's someone who before this was not safe, and now she's challenging the very popular president. Trump has been found to have a 93% approval rating with Republicans, to where you even have some who say they like him more than Lincoln, which is insane to me. But my point is, there's nothing cowardly or not bold about doing this. She is putting her career on the line to come out and say what the things that I just read. And I noticed a very lovely pattern, which is that whenever Republicans, because I always defend Collins and Murkowski the most of the Republican senators because they do the most stuff I like, whenever they do something that left-wing people like or are supposed to like all the Democrats, the Republicans are spineless and they won't hold Trump accountable, blah, blah, blah. But when they come out and they actually do something that is opposed to him in a capacity that if it were a Democrat they would like, they find a way to circumvent it. So if you remember when I did the video about Cenk from TYT and how he was saying, oh, well, Collins only voted against Amy Coney Barrett because she was a released vote and she knew she would make it anyway. Now, if a Democrat votes against that lady, it's good. But if a Republican does it, there has to be another reason for this. And this is going to be the same reaction by Democrats to her coming out and making this statement when it's, again, based off of what we've seen of her electoral history as recently as the last time she ran, not in any way politically expedient to call out a sitting president of your party to resign, let alone be the first member of your party in the Senate to do so. And everything she says about him in her statement is correct. They've talked about him not going to COVID meetings. They've talked about him getting upset with people who are, in a lot of cases, his most loyal defenders. Look at what happened with him and Pence this week. They have reported that him and Pence are having the worst time of their relationship since Trump has been in office. I mean, I'm not as concerned about him not going to the inauguration because we could have seen that a mile coming. It is very weird because it's just a thing that presidents do to go to their successors, their immediate successors, inauguration. But it is what it is. That's not anywhere near as important as the other criticisms that she had of him. Yeah, Murkowski is just a really underrated politician. Like I noticed that ever since they were basically verbally crucifying Collins when she wouldn't vote for when she voted for Kavanaugh, and then when Murkowski didn't vote for Kavanaugh, I heard maybe like two or three Democrats on Twitter actually applaud her for that. The rest were just like whatever. So now we can say two things about Collins and Murkowski. We can say that Collins was one of the first Republican senators to acknowledge that Biden won, and Murkowski was the first one to call for Trump to resign. Collins was the only Republican senator to vote against Barrett for the Supreme Court, and Murkowski was the only one to vote against Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. So they keep doing things that these Democrats and liberals claim the Republicans won't do since they're all, like the Borg from Star Trek, just to not get any credit for having a little bit of courage. And the act that she did yesterday is, I think, the most courageous thing I've seen a politician do in the last 5 years at least, especially knowing that her reelection campaign is next year, and you can bet that Trump is going to try and mess with her over this. Unless, and this is a big if, uh, other Republican senators come out and also call for him to resign, because then he might not pay as much attention to her. But I don't see that happening, especially after the way Cruz and Hawley and the rest of them are acting. So she is putting her career on the line in making this statement, and it's a shame people don't acknowledge the bravery that she had for doing this.